Dave Scott Hub Media. It's the December show with MPP Bobbi Ann Brady. And Bobby, I got to tell you, looking over what we talked about this year, I was going over my notes yesterday, and it's like we talked about healthcare, education, the struggle of individual families. We talked about wells. We talked about taxes. We talked about mental health. We talked about the struggles of the everyday person. And then last week, I did a podcast, and actually, I saw you first on a photo on Facebook, and you're at the Delhi Food Bank helping out. And I immediately called the Port Dover Food Bank, and we did a little podcast to help them. And it made me realize we spend all year, I don't want to say bitching and complaining, but we're always trying to figure out these things to help folks. But I think it's time we just talked about the folks, because Haldimand Norfolk has some unbelievably great people. And without communities, there is no politicians, is there?
Absolutely. And it's a great point. And it's one of the things that I continually talk about. I actually said it in a speech on the weekend. I'm like a broken record. Without our volunteers, without the people in our communities who are actually, making things happen, our small towns across Ontario, and I include small business in there too, because small business always, contributes back to the local economy through, fundraisers, events. They donate to high school teams. They donate to minor hockey, minor baseball, you name it. They're always there. So without volunteers, without our small business, our small communities across this province would grind to a halt. And I truly believe that. When I see all of the amazing things that occur, all of the things that I'm so blessed to attend and be part of in our riding. It's astounding. And it's one of the questions that when I go into schools, a lot of the elementary school students will say to me, Bobbi Ann, who's the most exciting person you've ever met? Or what's the most exciting thing you've ever done? And I've done some pretty amazing things, I think, in my life. I'm pretty fortunate. And I come back with the same answer every time. It's everyday people. It's the events that I go to every week. I learn of something new, a new business or a new group that's doing something amazing in our community. And those are the incredible people. It's the everyday people who kind of just go about their community service in a very quiet way, because they know that it enriches and it makes our small towns and our communities more vibrant. So I always answer that question the same way. Yeah, you can be a celebrity. You can meet a celebrity. You can meet, I've met King Charles and I've met Camilla, and in all, lovely encounters, but it's the everyday person who's, busting their hump to pay bills, but then after supper goes out and invests time in our community.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things when I saw that with you last week too, and it brought me back to some other memories of winters gone by. And I remember 20 years ago, we had a long laneway, and me and my neighbor would get stuck. And you just went and helped. And it just kind of reminded me of simpler times and why, it didn't matter what his political views were, what his religion was. It was just like, no, you're just my neighbor.
That's right.
And I think that's what I get back to with Haldimand Norfolk. Those are your neighbors. Those are your everyday people that you're going to deal with, you need to communicate with. And when push comes to shove, they're going to be there to help you.
And I think, that is so true. And I remember being stuck a million times when I drove a Mustang in the winter, and a guy who went by my house every day, it's almost like he knew I have to drive by Bobbi Ann's house because she's going to be stuck, and he would stop. And we need to, I know that there's events of the past few years where people go, I don't know if I want to stop because I'm afraid. And that's terrible. And I think, people say to me, oh, Bobbi Ann, you represent folks who don't want anyone moving into your area. You don't want this, that, and the other. But I think that's why people locally who have been here and been born and raised in Haldimand Norfolk are really, really protective of our way of life, because we don't want to lose that feeling.
And I think too, one thing that I always reassure people with, when we were just talking about my neighbor was probably, I think right now he's still alive. He's in his late 80s, but he was interned at the camps during World War II in Canada because he was of Japanese descent. But the guy is like 100% Canadian. You won't find a nicer guy in this country. And to my point, it's like, you know what? you got to know somebody first before you make those decisions. And I
That's
always try and, you and I always try and do that. You want to be open
right.
to people coming into the community, but at the same time, they want to be part of that fabric. So to understand that fabric, you got to educate as well. I guess that's a
Right.
long way of saying
And
if they're good people.
we have to be open to showing them what we
Good
do
point.
as a community,
Exactly.
and say, hey, you know what, come join me.
On your celebrity question, I like that too, because I've had that same question when other people interview me, and and I remember this one time somebody asked me that, and they said, "Well, who's the most famous person?" I said, "I can tell you who the nicest person I ever met that was famous was,
Yeah.
and they were from Haldimand Norfolk. They were from Norfolk, and it was Red Kelly." And they're
Yes.
like, "Red Kelly?" And I'm like, the guy had met everybody in the world, but he still was humble and Norfolk centric. You know what I mean? Like he still believed in the roots of this community, and I think that's when you see that and you learn that and see how that works, you understand what you can be too. When somebody like Red was such a fixture in our community,
You strive to
right?
be that person, right? And I think we should all, strive to be, pick somebody in your community. And I mean, I'd have a hard time picking one person in our community, because everywhere I go,
Yeah, exactly.
these events are run by people who are not only showing up for that particular organization, but a lot of times, I'll give Katrina Marcus and Brandon Marcus from Delhi a shout out, because over the past month or so, I've been at about 5 or 6 events, and who's there? They are. And so they're not only lending a hand and they're just an example. There are many, many examples in our riding where you show up to different events and you see the same faces. And so they're not only giving of their time to one event or one organization, they're giving their time to multiple. And, whether it's our firefighters, we've just been
Yeah.
through Remembrance Day, all of our Legion veterans, our volunteers associated with our legions, our Army, Navy, and Air Force units, our military organizations in general. All of these folks are pulling together to remember with respect to Remembrance Day, but to also enrich our community, make us better. And the list is absolutely endless. The food banks, you mentioned that earlier. I kind of started my food bank tour. I think it was early fall, late summer, early fall, and it was in Caledonia. And I got a great tour of their food bank there, which is not only a food bank, it's doing a whole host of things. They've got, a little shop where people come in and can get clothes and prom dresses at prom time. They are running an amazing little operation there. But what I was there for, it was kind of twofold. So I saw the food bank and everything else they have going on there. But our local chicken farmers had donated over 540 kilograms. I think it was 540 kilograms or 640 kilograms of chicken, which is 5,400 meals. 5,400 meals. That's astounding. So, in that one event, you have all the folks who run the food bank and the services associated with that. But then you also have chicken farmers who, yes, their job is to produce chickens and sell them, but they're also giving back to their community by donating some of those birds they produce. So, like I say, it's endless. So then I went to the Delhi Sharing Pantry. Ruth Brown, absolutely instrumental in the Delhi community, and it's not lost on me. Ruth said, Bobbi, and we are seeing an uptick in use of our food bank. Everyone is. But she said, our community is so generous. Are we afraid we're going to run out of food? No, we're not. People are donating money so that others, who have fallen down on hard times can have a Christmas meal. They can continue to put food on the table every single week. And it's heartening. I mean, it's sad that we have to do these things in Canada, but we're at a point where people are really hurting, and it's heartening to know that people in our community are stepping up and lending a hand.
Well, and that's a really good point, because I do think this time of year, and I was going to mention that we battled so much big inflation this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of folks are struggling, and I think the one thing you can do at Christmas is help somebody else, right? Even if it's just saying hello or Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or whatever you choose to say. But in that aspect, I think that's part of what Haldimand Norfolk is. I mean, just knowing your neighbor. And I think we need to get back to those roots a little bit more. And
We do.
it's not about, it's not about all the big presents under the tree anymore,
No.
especially with this economy and where the world's going. It's about actually friendship and cherishing
Mhm.
those moments with the people you really enjoy, or meeting new people and really enjoying those moments.
Absolutely, taking that time to reflect, to reminisce on days gone by or Christmases gone by. That's my favorite part now. I just love
Yeah.
sitting around. Can't lie, I gotta have the bottle of wine on the turkey dinner table, and sitting there for hours after dinner and just talking. Remember when, right?
Yeah.
My brother loves Chevy Chase, and so
Well,
like the
Christmas
lines
vacation.
from Christmas Vacation, and it never gets old. It never gets old when my brother's like, "Oh, Clark," right? And so those times are so important, and at the end of the day, that's what our young people, that's what our kids will remember, right? It's not what they got in 2024 that they're going to remember. It's going to be, remember when Uncle Mike, or remember when Grandma or Grandpa said A, B, or C. Remember when Mom fell through the grate in the dining room because the grate slipped off the hole, and Mom fell down there. And it's those things that they'll remember. And that's my hope for everyone in our community, is that they have that time. And I know that the Christmas, for most of us, is a time of happiness and peace, in good food and friends and family. But we have to keep in mind that there are people who do struggle throughout the holiday season, and they are in my prayers. And I hope that others think of that as well. And know what to do. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do, but sometimes just a simple smile, sometimes just a phone call or a knock on the door. Hey, here's a plate of cookies. Nothing aggressive, but just to let them know that they're being thought of, that they're being loved, is important at this time of the year. And of course, there's always people who have lost a loved one, who are grieving.
Yeah.
And we have to be sensitive to that. But we do have so much to be grateful for. We are in difficult times. I'm not going to deny that. People are hurting, people are struggling. There's a lot of political strife around the globe. But we have a lot to be grateful for locally. I mean, the hospice announcement just a few weeks ago, my goodness, that's the culmination of many years of work, and people are looking forward to that. I was in Jarvis Monday night for the Jarvis Lions, and if there's one community that's going to embrace the hospice and make sure the success happens, it's Jarvis. Just drive through Jarvis right now and look at the lights, and
Yeah.
Lisa and
Lisa Nye.
Howie
Yeah.
Nye and Elf Ernie. My goodness, like, it just, your heart just explodes.
It does remind you, right, what communities can be. Right
Mm-hmm.
there. Jarvis is putting it out and showing. Same with Simcoe, Panorama. Like, there's lots of folks you'll run into they
Yeah.
haven't seen in a while. There's so many good things that have happened to this last year too in Haldimand Norfolk, and we have to be grateful for that. And we got to keep going. We got to keep striving to help people wherever
And
we can.
monies are flowing into both Haldimand and Norfolk. Things are happening. So, people are struggling, but I really do believe that, there are brighter days ahead. They might be down the road, but I think there are brighter days ahead. And in the meantime, I think that we rely on one another locally to, bring people up, help them up, and support them, those who need it. So I don't know. I couldn't be more proud to represent the people that we have here in Haldimand Norfolk. It's the whole reason why I come into Toronto. I do my work and I come straight home, because I think we live in the very best part of Ontario, and we have the very best food and people.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give us all an inspirational message for the holidays before you leave us today.
I think it goes back to, take that time. Don't hurry through Christmas dinner. Don't hurry through those special times with family and friends. Sit around, reminisce, reflect, take the moments in, because you just never know when those moments can be taken away from you. And I wish everyone the merriest of Christmas. And I think that, the Queen's message is something that I always talk about at Christmas. It's something that always gave me great comfort. And she said peace and goodwill are never out of date. And my goodness, we do need peace and goodwill at this time. And I just call on everyone in Haldimand Norfolk to help spread that.
Happy holidays, Bobbi. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a
Same
good
to
time
you.
with your family this year.
Yeah, you too, Dave.